Hi, friends. I'm Emily Lay, and you're listening to the Simplified podcast. If you're looking to simplify your life and organize your home, then you're in the right place. Every week, I invite you to explore practical ways to organize and automate the complicated parts of life so you can focus on what truly matters most. Well, in celebration of our 15th year in business, we are having our annual birthday sale over at emilylay.com. If you're looking for a new planner to kick off the next school year or something to help you get your home a little more organized, come check it out. Think about who you were 15 years ago. How much do you recognize that person? What's the same about her? And how much is different? When you think about the world we lived in 15 years ago, it's wild to think about. 2008 doesn't sound like it was that long ago, but hardly anyone you knew had an iPhone. Facebook was just on our laptops. We had no idea what Instagram was. Barack Obama was just some senator running for president. And Reese Witherspoon was just Elle Woods. 15 years ago, I was a newlywed who worked in an office. I liked the work just fine, and I definitely enjoyed the people I worked with. I was 25 and didn't have a ton of responsibilities at work or at home. It would be 3 years before Brady came into our lives. I was an English major who missed her creative outlet. So I started to design wedding invitations for other people and sold them on Etsy. I'd work late into the night to meet my deadlines, and it was hard, but so much fun. After a couple years, I stepped away from my job and decided to throw myself into Emily Lay Paper, or as I'd call it later, Simplified, full-time. That was such a defining moment for me, but there would be others that came in my path. Like 3 years later, when I had Brady on my arm in Target and was desperately searching the shelves for a simple planner that would help me get my life in order and couldn't find one. So then I made my own, and it kind of snowballed from there. I often wonder what my life would have been like if I had never scratched my creative itch and stayed up designing wedding invitations for other people. I wonder what it would have looked like if Bryan had never encouraged me to take my dream job full-time. I wonder what would have happened if I wasn't an overwhelmed mom who decided to create something to simplify her life and maybe help other women simplify theirs. You guys know I'm pretty sentimental. The milestones mean a lot to me, and this year, along with turning 40, I've hit another one. This year marks 15 years I've been an entrepreneur, and so much has changed since the beginning of this business. I think about how much I've changed over time, but sometimes it's helpful to get an outside perspective on these kinds of things. And the person who's been close to me throughout this whole process has been my husband, Bryan. Bryan's been my biggest cheerleader and pants kicker since 2008 when I started this company. He has been in the trenches with me, helping me grow the business to where it is now. So today, I wanted to ask him to come on so we could walk down memory lane and also talk about how much we've changed and grown in the last 15 years. Here's the thing about Bryan. In a lot of ways, he and I are similar, but we are also really different, especially when it comes to business, and I am grateful for that. Bryan is smart, he takes calculated risks, and because of this, he's pushed me so much farther than I think I would have gone if I had taken this business journey alone. And I'm so grateful he's been there for so many of Simplified's defining moments. And I want to get his perspective on it all to share with you guys. So today, we're taking a walk down the behind-the-scenes memory of Simplified. We're talking about the biggest wins, the fails you don't know about, and how we've changed along the way. Because I will tell you what, if you need some encouragement for the road ahead, sometimes it's helpful to look back and see how far you've come. Thanks for being here, you guys. Let's get the conversation started. Hi, Bryan.
Well, hi, Emily.
How are you?
I am fantastic.
Bryan just got home from work, and I said, come on, we're going to record a podcast all about business. He was like, oh, good. So
Glad I'm so prepared.
Yep. So I have not prepared Bryan for any of this. He knows nothing about what I'm going to ask him, but we are going to talk about the last 15 years, all the crazy things we've done, some of the hard things, and some of the lessons we've learned. So thinking back to 2008, how would you describe me as a 25-year-old entrepreneur, and how is that different than the way you describe me now?
I think in 2008, you have what a lot of first-time early entrepreneurs have, which is, by the way, a great thing, is you have naivety. Blind, well, why wouldn't this work? I'm just going to just do this. Think about this. I'm just going to create wedding invitations, and perfect strangers are going to hire me, who's never done this before, to plan their wedding invitations on the most important day of their lives.
Right.
Great. You know what I do? Great, Emily. I'll go and buy and refurbish a letterpress machine for you. That way we can make and hand stamp these things in our living room. Like how, I mean, but
Do you
it's
remember
that kind
that?
of blind, just sheer.
You have to have that to get started.
You kind of do. Otherwise, you overthink everything. You're like, well, no one's really going to hire me. And what if it doesn't work? And what if I don't know how to refurbish a letterpress machine? And what if, well, then you can, what if yourself to death? I heard someone say the other day, we have the rest of our lives to make this perfect. Let's just get it done. And
That's good.
it's a pretty good mantra for an early entrepreneur. Just get it done.
Oh,
Done is better than great.
perfect. Done is better than perfect. I like that. I know the very first person that bought stationery from me, Nicole. Do you remember Nicole?
She was the first one?
Yeah, Nicole Webb, mutual friend of ours.
I did not know that was first.
Shout out to Nicole. Bought stationery from me on
She listened to
Etsy.
this podcast?
I don't know, but if you do, Nicole, I'm really grateful.
I know the Higgersons.
Yeah, we had a lot of friends who came alongside us and were like, oh, cool, Emily's doing a thing. Like,
Still talk to Drew.
yeah.
And I remind him, like, you had that monstrosity of a wedding.
Yeah, they hired me for every
And it was
piece of
like-
paper for
and
it.
It was like a real big, like, multi-layered invitation.
Yeah.
So it was like a big order. Like, it was a big one.
You know what? I heard a quote yesterday from the queen of all writers, Anne Lamott, and I think she was actually quoting someone else, but she said that if you get in the car and you're going somewhere at night, you can really only see about 2 to 3 feet ahead of you. But if you can see 2 to 3 feet, you're pretty good. You can make a whole drive that way. You don't always have to know like where the road's going to
a good
go.
point.
And I didn't know. Like I didn't decide that day sitting at my desk at the USF Foundation and decide like I'm gonna create a planner company and write books and have a podcast. No, I was actually like I'm gonna like teach myself how to use Microsoft Publisher and create monograms and stationery to sell on Etsy. So I didn't know what it would look like.
Yeah, I think there's the case for like the Harvard business grad who has a minor in entrepreneurialism and he's got his business case and he knows how to scale a business. And once I reach plateau A, I'm going to go and get Series A funding.
Yeah.
That's going to carry me to B. I'm going to scale it this way. And as long as I'm doing the rule of 40 in terms of growth over losses, like I'm fine. And
Oh my God, my
he's
head
got a
hurts.
whole scaling. That's not for your layman. That's not for your normal entrepreneur. The early layman entrepreneur just has to kind of, to your point, be able to see 3 feet in front of them
And keep going.
and keep going. And as long as they kind of stay on course and stay on track and don't get deterred, they'll be okay. And I think to answer your original question, you embodied that completely.
Well, that's nice of you. Thanks.
Yeah.
I think being an entrepreneur at all, to me, no matter what kind of thing you're trying to do, requires a certain level of scrappiness that like if you don't have it, it won't work. And that's scrappiness meaning like you get up when you fall down. You sometimes let people talk you into getting up when you fall down when you want to just lay there. And you grind when you have to, you know?
Right. Well, you see it all the time in like the music business where like you'll be hearing an interview of a famous artist and they'll be asked like, what was the moment or what was it that led you to your success? And they're almost befuddled by the question because there was no other option. Like there was no safety net. There was no plan B.
You just did
They
it.
just did it. And there's a lot to be said for that. The normal logical person's going to look at that artist and think like, you're crazy. Like, how could you do that? And
Yeah.
some could be said, for the creative entrepreneur would look at your flight and be like, well, how could you do that so haphazardly? But it kind of does take a little bit of that blindness. So I have if we're asking questions, being your husband, I get to say this and I get to have an opinion about this.
Oh, dear.
And because we're in the safe zone of a podcast, you can't get mad at me. I happen to know that you like to be in control of things. Right?
This is true.
You kind of like to, you created your own planner for crying out loud. It takes a certain somebody, right?
Yeah.
I love, by the way, when I meet my friends who are like, oh, I've got a type A spouse or wife at home and she's very organized and very controlling. You wouldn't understand. And I'm like, oh, did she create her own planner company? Because that's exactly how type A,
You're welcome.
my wife is, and organized. And are your LaCroix color
Color-coded.
coordinated in the pantry? 'Cause
Always.
mine are.
Yep.
And then my friends come over and they like to move them around when Emily's not.
They do. They come and they move they think it's so funny to move the who was it that did that?
Oh, everybody.
Yeah, and moves the LaCroix.
So anyway, as you're going through and just me knowing you and knowing how you manage, the day-to-day of our family or our routines and our family structure, how does that play into what you're doing in running a business, right? You have to go out and hire employees. You've got to take their opinions. You've got customers, a lot of people who have opinions on how and what you should do, how and what you should say. This color goes with that. How do you handle all that and kind of take it all in, but ultimately make the right choice when you know that you just want to control everything?
So, yes, the answer is yes. Yes, I would like to control everything. But I feel like I've learned over the years that I could take Simplified so far. Like there was so far that I could take it on my own. And when I realized that what I needed to do was not like, it wasn't like stay up later and, instead of getting 4 hours of sleep and I get 2, it was like surround yourself with people who are going to bring a whole other layer to this thing that propels it in a way that you couldn't do on your own, And so like, for instance, I mean, there's been so many people who've come alongside me and doing everything, not just from like designing products to like working with customers and answering questions and things like that. But when you bring on people who can take your vision and be like, okay, here's your black and white vision. Like, let's add some green and some blue and let's do it this way. And it's been so fun for it to become such a collaborative thing. And I'm thinking at this point, like really visually, like it has become so much bigger than I ever thought it could be. And that's because I've surrounded myself with people who aren't just gifted like in their talents, but they're really good, amazing character people who really believe in like the heart of the company and not just the stuff we make. Yeah. Does that make sense? And so for that reason, like I just trust them. And it's taken years for me to back, out of certain elements of the business so I can kind of be the vision caster, if you will. But
I remember when Memory Lane, you hired a designer because all of a sudden
Whitney?
You needed more help with designing because you couldn't design everything.
This is what I was actually thinking of Whitney when I was saying that answer.
And you hired this super talented designer.
Yeah.
And, I'm sitting there saying her design style is so close to yours, it's going to really fit. And I remember early on, you just were having a real hard time with like, well, it didn't have this or it didn't have that. And I'm thinking like, nobody's going to like, you were really obsessive, but it wasn't that there was anything wrong with her design.
No.
It was your inability to let go of complete control. And ultimately when you kind of let go of that, you now have another designer on the team who's capable of everything that you were doing. And so I just look at how much your company grew, like in that alone, letting go of control.
I was lucky that the first time I ever handed over like that aspect of things, Whitney actually moved to Tampa and came and worked alongside me in my actual office with the twins crawling around on the floor. And she, had her style and I had my style. And we really like developed a new style together, Mm-hmm. And I remember it was so much fun for me to go sit and watch her work in Illustrator because I'd be like, wait, how'd you do that? Wait, how'd you do that? And then we would learn things from each other. And so, I mean, I don't even know how long she's been with me. It's been a very long time, but
now you guys have basically morphed into the same person.
Yeah.
It's pretty weird.
It's kind of cool.
You said something that you said, you never thought it would be this big and this is great. And it feels great to have this kind of an impact. You kind of alluded to that, but how much of that is like, hey, we made this really cool product. I feel like if you made color pencils and then you just found a way to like get them into stores and they sold, I don't think you would have that feeling. I think part of why you feel your business is doing what it's doing and is accomplishing what it's accomplishing, it's not just the products and the revenue. It certainly is to do with the community and kind of the messaging behind your brand. So, and obviously then you kind of rewind that a little bit, and that's majorly to do with social media. And so a big part of your business has been Instagram, Facebook. How's that been in your mind? You didn't go into business making invitations thinking, I'm going to build this brand around messaging for women about simplifying their lives and making time for what matters most and giving themselves grace, not perfection. But that's ultimately what it became. And then your products almost came as a byproduct of the message. How's that been? And why do I have to take so many pictures of you?
Let me back up and answer your first question. And I will say that I went to school for creative writing and then I have a master's in nonprofit administration. And I think the reason I fell in love with nonprofit work is because it's so heart-centered and the work you're doing is making a difference for people. And it really matters in the grand scheme of things. Not that all work doesn't matter, but you know what I mean? Like the work I was doing, it just felt so meaningful to the day-to-day lives of people. that when I started this company, I think even from the beginning, I was looking for like, what's the message here? What's the story? Why does this matter? You know, it's because you know this because you went along my ride with a couple jobs in Tampa where I was like, I can't connect. I'm not connecting with why this matters. And like, if I can't connect with the actual meaningful part of it, like I have a hard time selling it, if you will, you know, or building any sort of community around it. And to me, the community piece is like, that's the most awesome part, you know?
Yeah. All right. But seriously, why do I have to take so many pictures? You didn't answer that part.
Because if it weren't for social media, I don't think I would have a job. But you're a great Instagram husband. Although I did try to coach you a little bit last weekend, right? I did. I was like, here, I need you to like snap some photos. I need some just like, and he was like, oh my gosh.
I just keep taking pictures until you find one you like.
I didn't sign up for this, he says. But you're a good Instagram husband. Did you know that? I saw a meme yesterday of Jeff Bezos on his like super yacht with his new fiance, or who, I don't know what they are. And she was like in a bikini up against the edge of the yacht, and he was taking her picture on his iPhone.
There we go. Now we're talking.
That's not what I want to do. I'm saying even Jeff Bezos can't get away from being an Instagram husband.
Sometimes I look at my credit card bill at the end of the month and think, okay, when did all of this happen? But you know what? Little charges add up. That's especially true when it comes to subscriptions. But thanks to Rocket Money, I was able to save literally hundreds of dollars by canceling my subscriptions with just a few clicks. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps you lower your bills all in one place. Sometimes I get subscriptions to things that say, this is the life I want to have. But listen, I just had a baby. I probably don't need to have the premium version of the language learning app I use when I'm going out of the country, because I'm probably not going to be doing that for a little while. And I haven't used our Wine Club subscription that much lately either, so Rocket Money helped me cancel that too. So now I can use that money on things we really need, like diapers. So many diapers. So stop throwing your money away. Cancel unwanted subscriptions and manage your expenses the easy way by going to rocketmoney.com/simplified. That's rocketmoney.com/simplified. rocketmoney.com/simplified.
People know that you've been around since the very beginning, right? And you have kind of like been an advisor of sorts in different capacities, as my husband, who has to just listen to it all the time, but also in like a more formal role, like on the finance side. So people ask me all the time, does Bryan work for Simplified? Does Bryan have his own job? Like, what does Bryan do? And what is his relationship to the company?
Well, on paper, I'm 50%.
Oh, no, you're not.
49.
It's a women-owned company, ladies and gentlemen.
No, my relationship with the company is simply I'm married into it. Like there's no getting around it. It plays a big part in our family. It is something that, you know, we teach our kids about. I mean, building and starting something and being an entrepreneur. It is something that, you know, my kids get to see in terms of her writing books. And so it's every day, it's part of our family. So I'm married into it. In terms of like, you know, what is my background? What do I do? I mean, I don't have a super fancy background in finance management and in advice for small business. It's just kind of a learned trait. I do have a finance degree. I did go to school for finance, but ultimately that took me down a career path in sales and commercial insurance consulting. So nothing really there. I just stayed interested and stayed invested in the business. We had real dollars at work. I mean, it's funny how well you learn something when it's yours. It's funny how quickly you're paying attention when there's like, it's not monopoly money. It's not some fourth quarter budget that you didn't set aside. I mean, these were real dollars that we were putting to work to manufacture goods that we didn't know if we could sell. And they're dated products. And so if they don't sell them, you got to burn them.
I always say it's like selling food.
Right.
Like it goes bad.
It goes bad. So you start paying attention really quick on where you can be aggressive and where you can be conservative and where to take risks and where not. And it's just kind of a skill set of mine. I've always been a numbers and a math guy. So it's not the best answer in the world, but you kind of, you marry opposites, I think, a lot of times. We did anyway. And it was just a natural gap in your, you know, kind of thought process that I got to fill.
So Bryan and I always say, and I've told the story before, so you guys may have heard it, but when we got married, Bryan was like, do you want to be CEO or manager? And I was like, CEO, duh. And he was like, okay, well, here's the thing. So obviously we'll make all of our decisions as married couple together, but like CEO is looking long-term investment strategy, 401k, like that kind of stuff. Manager is like paying the bills that come in the mail and doing like the checking account and that kind of thing. And that's my skill set. Like a few minutes ago, we were actually talking about finance stuff, and Bryan was talking about how much he pays attention to 401k stuff. And I was like, I'm just trying to figure out like what I'm spending on groceries tomorrow. Like that's my brain works that way, and Bryan's works in a more long-term way. So if you think about the way that we approach the company finances and long-term planning, that's kind of how Bryan fits in. I would say every big and medium-sized finance decision, I will run through you. Like Bryan's a good filter for me because I sometimes get really excited about something and want to like immediately pull the trigger. And he's a risk taker, but he's more calculated, I would say.
Yeah. And it's been kind of nice since we moved back to Pensacola and I kind of got out of the corporate role there, and I've pivoted more into an investor and a partner in a group that we actually go out and acquire and operate medium-sized businesses. It's been pretty educational for me to kind of sharpen that skill set a little bit, watching how we're making these decisions in multiple different business types with multiple sales cycles, with multiple employee needs and headcount needs and different risk profiles. And so just kind of better learning how to be better at it. I think that's also helped in the last few years, us get a little bit sharper with here.
I agree. Okay, I think this is a good time for us to tell the story of, do you remember that year we lived in Tampa? We had just released the first Simplified planner. So I'm trying to remember which one it was. The stripey. It was the one with the pink bands for anyone who's been around for a long time. So I forget how many we printed, like 1,000 or something. And they sold really quickly, so quickly that we knew we like potentially had time to make more and sell them in time for them to begin, right? And so we were like, it was our first real risk, like, right? I mean, we had other risks that we had taken financially, but this one was like the first one that had a lot of numbers. And we sat in the little guest room office and we had all these spreadsheets going and like all this stuff. And wasn't this when we were also deciding to do IVF? Yes, it was. We were also deciding to do IVF. So we had all these huge decisions we were making all at the same time. And we went out to dinner and you took out a piece of paper. It was like a scrap piece of paper that was like in the glove compartment of your car.
Right.
And
I remember I wrote a letter on a napkin or a scrap piece of paper, basically just telling you, because you were really stressing out about it, like getting emotional, which I don't handle very well. And the tears start flowing. I got to fix it. Anyway, I kind of just wrote a letter from you to future you, telling you that everything worked out. It was going to be okay. And like, it was almost like, I don't remember the words on the letter. I don't think we still have it. But
I think I do somewhere.
It was almost along the lines of, if you're reading this,
it worked out.
It all worked out. You know, we were able to sell the planners and you didn't lose your house and so on and so forth. And then I made you sign it.
And it was IVF too.
Yeah, it encompassed all that. It was kind of like, it all worked out. And then we kind of just forgot about it, except I kept it. And then, I guess several months later, we were basically pregnant and you'd sold through the planners and we didn't lose our house. We didn't lose everything. And I kind of got to show you that letter.
I love that
completely
story.
Forgotten about it.
I did. And I love that story. It doesn't always work out though. Like we have made ginormous mistakes with the company that cost lots of dollars. Mm-hmm. I have a few I would say are our biggest flops, like decisions I wish I could take back. And I think everyone in this journey does, but like what would you say was the biggest flop of the last 15 years? I mean, I can name like 12.
I mean, I'm pretty sure my number could be off, but I'm pretty sure at one point we had to burn $200,000 worth of inventory that was outdated.
Well, that wasn't why. It wasn't two, it was one.
It's whatever.
It was a lot.
Tomato.
But you got to tell the story why. That was not,
we've done that
they weren't outdated.
Times. One was because the tabs were wrong.
Oh, yeah.
One was because we overprinted stock. And another one was because of the paper quality.
The paper one was what I was thinking
So we had to do that 3 times. Maybe not all 3 were that big, but we've had 3 major malfunctions where we just had to burn inventory.
We recycled them. The third time was the most painful for me. And it was a 6-figure mistake. And it was 100% my fault. We were in that same scenario where the planners had sold out in like days. I mean, completely blew our minds. Like we had predicted inventory for, 6 months and didn't last but a couple days. And we got the opportunity to make more. And I was so excited and like in the momentum of it all that I was like, I didn't want all these people disappointed and upset with us that we didn't have any. And so I was like, yes, pull the trigger.
We were used to selling out, and people were getting pretty frustrated with how often we sold out of stuff.
Yeah, that was a real thing back then. And so our manufacturer was like, okay, yes, we can do it. We're going to have to use a different type of paper that is more readily available. And I was like, okay, look, send it to me. Send me the paper printed and let me look at it. And they did. They sent me some pages printed. They were printed on one side. And it did not occur to me the samples are printed on one side. And so the paper was nice. It was just very similar to our other one. I was like, absolutely, let's do it. I checked the color. I checked the thickness. I checked everything. Gave the thumbs up. Printed a whole bunch more planners. And I don't even want to tell the story. It's so bad. They came and the pages were completely see-through. Because we didn't get a sample on two sides, and these are things like I've learned and I know now, but because they were on two sides, it was see-through. It was terrible, and we had to recycle a lot and lose a lot of money. So that was my biggest hiccup.
You can't have it. Yeah, if we could all figure out how to bat 1,000.
Right, totally.
We would only make the small mistakes and we would get the big ones right. And then, it just doesn't work that way. You don't get to pick and choose. So what you have to do is you kind of just have to take risks and swing the bat. And you have to make decisions that you think are directionally correct. And then you just hope. And you're going to have big hits. You're going to have situations where we print and they sell out again and everything's okay. And then you're going to have situations where it doesn't work out. I don't care what kind of company you run, there's going to be the
swings and misses
that don't work.
I think too, one thing I'm really proud of is that we've run the company in a way that it's been, resilient. It can weather those kinds of things. We never made a risk that would have sunk us, and we still don't, I also think, talking about some of the crazy, awful things that have happened, some of the most amazing, we couldn't have the day that we got the email about Target and Walmart without that. We couldn't have the Forbes feature, the day that I was at the zoo with the kids and Jenny called me and said, Emily, Target has picked up an end cap full of Simplified in every Target store. And then those days don't happen without the risk taking,
Even going into Target's a risk.
Right. That was a risk. We were worried about that.
Your profit margins shrink, and it's a different product, right? So even though it resembles your signature line planner, it's a different quality product at a different price point intentionally.
Right.
And it's all about brand awareness, and you're getting mass, but it also, you wonder, well, is this going to kill my line on my e-commerce line direct?
And that worked out so well.
Right, but it didn't have to.
No.
There might be brands out there where it's had the opposite effect. There might be brands out there who didn't make the leap because they were worried about it. There's an area where it worked and that both lines can coexist, the signature line and the Target line or the Walmart line. And it did work, and it did not have the effect of...
No, it had the opposite effect. We reached more people offering, products at a different price point with different materials.
We talk about kind of taking swings and chances. Do you have... And I'm not talking the obvious regrets. I wish I didn't print it on that sheet of paper. That's pretty obvious. Is there anything, kind of the complete hindsight, 15 years, do it all over again, what would you change?
Oh, really? Do it all over again? What would I change?
Yeah. I mean, maybe not all over again, but...
I honestly don't know. If I could change anything, I would just go back and tell my younger, more inexperienced self, the hustle and the grind you're doing right now, it's okay to do that. It's good to do that. Don't feel guilty about it. And then the times when you need to take a beat and take a minute, you should do that too. That's important as well. I think I just had a lot of, it's hard to know when you're in it, right? Hindsight is always 20/20. So I wish I could just go back and tell her it's going to be okay. It's going to work out, I don't know. I don't know what I would change. What would you change?
I don't know. I think I think we get down on ourselves or frustrated about things, or we get anxious about things. And this isn't just in your business, this is in any business. And, you miss this target, you miss that goal, that launch didn't go well, whatever. And you kind of can beat yourself up. You carry a lot of stress on the day-to-day in business. Maybe not even just entrepreneurship, just really in any business or work that you're passionate about. I think we tend to be pretty hard on ourselves, and we wear that stress and that grind. But you kind of just said it. The 10, 15 years later version of you would go back and tell yourself to it's okay, it's going to work out. And I think, there's another, I'll share another quote with you that I love, and it's one we've all probably heard, but it's, we often overestimate what we're capable of achieving in a day or a year, but we often underestimate what we're capable of achieving in 10 or 15 years.
Oh, that's good.
And so sometimes it just takes time, and it's that constant effort and pressure, and you realize, why was I so stressed out? Why was I so anxious? Why was I so nervous? Why was I so hard on myself? When really, it all kind of had to go this way. It kind of had to get through. I had to go through that to get to this, and here we are. And of course, hindsight, the here we are moment makes total sense.
Yeah.
But, it kind of is all part of it. So, yeah, the underestimating what you can accomplish over a long period of time is something we don't do very well.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. All right, so I've got another. Let's take a hard right here. You've always loved books.
I do.
You've written books, you've authored many books, children's books, planner books, organizational books, books about your life. Why is that important to you? And do you have any book titles that you want to release right now? Dun, dun, dun. Go.
I have 5 books in my head right now. 5.
Okay.
I've told you about them all.
Yes.
Yeah.
One's about me, guys. Don't worry.
That's the first one. I think books and reading, it's like one of the most magical, fantastic parts of life, because you get to escape into other worlds, into new ideas, into meeting other people and learning different things. And I just think in my next life, I might be a librarian. I love books that much. I had an existential crisis when I was in college trying to decide what to major in, because my mom was a teacher and I felt like that was the only option if I wanted to kind of have the schedule she had, if you will, because I really wanted to be a mom. But I also knew that I had this drive within me that I wanted to build something or create something. And so I finally one day, I just decided to major in what I liked and the classes that I hated the least. And I really loved my literature and writing classes. So majored in English, and it was always a huge dream to be able to write a book one day. And what I didn't realize when I was writing social media posts and sharing them with 15 people and then 150 people and then 15,000 people. What I didn't realize is I was building up my voice. I was cultivating my voice to be able to one day write books about things that mattered to me. And so fast forward a few years and I'm sitting in the preschool parking lot and I get an email that says, "Hey, we've been reading your blog. We've been reading your social media posts. We like it. You want to write a book?" And I'm still with that publisher. 10 books later. It's funny because I feel really lucky that I get to do that and still do Simplified, because they're 2 really huge jobs. And again, surrounding yourself with people who are amazing allows me to do that part of my job. So I see a big part of my future in continuing both of those things, but especially the book part. I
Which one
love
was
it.
your best book?
Really?
Yeah. Which kid do you love the most? Go.
That's exactly what you're asking me, Bryan.
Right.
I don't have an answer. Yes, I do.
There we go. Let's go.
I do. This is not an answer about children. It is my first. I love Grace Not Perfection so much. It is like a unicorn of a book in that it was the right time, the right topic. It literally poured out of me, and it stands the test of time in that today I'm a 40-year-old, married 15 years, mom of 3 kids who are 8 and older, and I still struggle with the same concept. It has legs I never thought it would have when I wrote it. And then, my next favorite is, do you know?
Yes.
What?
The children's book.
Oh, well, yes. But I'm thinking of, the adult books. It's When Less Becomes More. I love that book so much.
Yeah. All right. Next book. What is it?
The next book I'm writing,
Breaking news right here. Podcast. Let's go.
there are 3. Well, I have 5
Make a
books
splash.
ideas.
Make a
I
splash.
can't tell on the
Go.
podcast. I have another devotional coming out later this year that I haven't announced yet. It's called
Not as exciting as I want you to
This is such
break
a
the
good
internet.
devotional.
Drop it.
I can't say. I haven't signed the contract yet.
Sorry,
I will
guys.
say, okay.
I tried,
I take it back.
guys.
I will say something about it.
All right.
I am writing another children's book.
There we go.
And the topic, I have a lot of topic ideas. I would like to write a library full of children's books. So expect more of those because I love them so much.
All right.
All
It's
right.
not the breaking news I wanted. I wanted you
Sorry.
to, but that's okay.
You wanted me to spill the beans?
Yeah.
I can't spill the beans quite yet. Okay. Business-wise, I feel like there's a lot of ways, obviously, that I've grown over the years. What do you think I've gotten better at business-wise than I used to be? And
That's easy.
what are my unique strengths in business? What do you think? I'm fishing for a compliment here.
Your unique strengths. I mean, you can get a lot of work done very quickly. Like forget the
Yeah.
word grit and grind. I don't really like all that and the ability to work late. That's nice. But if you have like a list of things that needs to get done, what would take the normal person a couple hours or an afternoon to accomplish, you somehow can like manage to get it done in about 20 minutes.
I
That's
just
incredible.
simplify it. That's why.
And especially if it involves like communication, like writing a blog or an email or a forward or something, like you can just like jot down some notes and it looks like something that it would have taken me a day and a half to write. So you're very quick with how quickly you can produce a product or a result. So there's your
I
compliment.
wonder why I'm like that.
I don't even understand. It's like, but the opposite of that is like if there's something you really don't want to do, you'll just bury it in all the other stuff, and you literally just won't ever get around to it. So
Yeah.
it comes and goes with, but then you mow through the stack of paper so quickly you eventually get to it anyway. So you're just very efficient.
I call it manic work energy.
Yeah, it's crazy. Anyway,
Yeah.
What was the first part of that question?
What have I gotten better at? Or that I handle better than I used to?
Sure. Working and having employees, that was something that you really, you did not want to go down that path. And
Well, I felt like I could do it all by myself in the beginning. Like,
and you were nervous, like what if they have to have a difficult conversation and what if we don't
Right.
agree? And you just didn't like the idea of having any responsibility for managing somebody.
And now it's like
working
my
with somebody.
favorite
Now
part.
It's like their family, and you guys are also like-minded. And you've certainly gotten better at the business side of the business, right? Forgetting that you're just making creative, fun, useful products. Like the whole, hey, this is how we back into a margin, and this is how many we have to make at this point, and this is how many I think we can sell, and this is what it costs to inventory it and warehouse it, and this is you've kind of just paid much closer attention to the dollars and cents that go into running a business, and you've gotten much better at that. Because before, early on, it was really just all about the creative side. You were just like, does it look pretty? Does it serve a function? Does it meet my purpose? And everything else didn't matter. And now you have a much more holistic approach to it.
I would totally agree with that. And I think as I've relinquished some of like the creative aspects of things over to people who are like insanely talented, I've been able to step more into that role, like the operational side. And it's not my favorite part of the business, but I love learning it because it makes me sleep better at night. Okay, so when it comes to work stuff, when you met me, I was working in fundraising. But when it comes to work stuff, has there ever been a time that something's happened and you've been like, wait, that's my wife doing that?
Yes. I mean, it happens a lot, actually.
What?
Yeah. I mean, whether it's making a bestsellers list as an author with numbers that are mind-blowing, whether it's speaking at events like Entrecon, a conference for entrepreneurs, or going and interviewing people who I'm familiar with, going on a speaking tour with Linda Cohn from SportsCenter.
Oh my gosh, that was so funny.
These are big things. So no, it happens all the time. You do lots of things that I find pretty awesome.
What do you think the next 15 years will hold for the business?
Oh boy. Well, I don't know. And I'm not overly worried about it.
Okay, so I have the exact same thought. Like I love what I'm doing in this very moment, like where my feet actually are so much. I hope I can just keep doing it. Like if we just keep doing what we're doing, I'm so thrilled with my day-to-day actual life and the things I get to focus on and work on and the people I work with and the difference I feel like we're making. If I can keep doing this, then that's going to be a pretty big win.
I think kind of combining some analogies we've used here, if we just keep paying attention to 3 feet in front of us,
Yeah.
10 years from now, we're going to have driven a long way.
That's exactly it. Like, again, I have a hard time looking 10 miles down the road. I was telling my mom the other day, I can think about 48 hours in advance. Don't ask me what's happening on Friday because it's Monday and I can see till Wednesday and that's all. So yes, we'll keep looking 3 feet ahead and keep going.
That's right.
I love that. What a great way to wrap this up. Thanks for being on the podcast, Bryan.
Well, thanks for having me. Always a pleasure.
Well, that was fun. It's always fun to have me on the podcast and walk down memory lane. I think my most favorite takeaway from that is 3 feet ahead. And I think that is great advice for wherever you are as well. Just keep looking 3 feet ahead. You don't have to know where the entire road goes. So as we close out this episode, I would like to say a little blessing over you as we leave this time together and get back to our days. Today, may you look back and realize how far you've come. Look how far your body has taken you, how strong your legs are to have carried you to this place. Look at the beautiful life your love has helped you build, where your courage has pushed the boundaries of your experience, farther and farther than you could have dreamed. And if you need a reminder for how brave you've been, just take a minute to turn and look behind you. I bet you see the outline of those following you, walking in the path you've cleared for them. As always, I like to leave a little tip to help you put what we talked about today into practice. So here's your task for this week. Sometimes it's hard to see how much you've grown. If you're in a season where you feel stuck, or you just need a little bit of pick-me-up, have a conversation about how much you've grown with someone who's been around you a while, like a partner, a parent, or a good friend. These conversations are great to have late into the night with your favorite beverage in hand or side by side while you're on a walk, or you have some time to kill during a road trip while the kids are asleep or occupied. If you need some conversation starters, we've got a few ideas for you over on the show notes page for this episode over at emilylay.com. Thank you for listening to the Simplified podcast. Don't forget to check out show notes for this episode at emilylay.com/podcast, where you can check out the conversation starters I talked about today, and you can shop the Simplified brand of planners and products. You can follow me on Instagram at Emily Lay and our brand at Simplified. And you can also find my latest book called Sure as the Sunrise right now wherever you buy books. And hey, if you want these kinds of great conversations in your life every week, then you should go follow our show. It'll show up right in your phone. Talk About Automated. Till next time, thanks for listening.